Thank you for joining us for this main stage presentation on day 3 of Rise Up Philly. Now joining us, Iola Harper, Deputy Commerce Director for the City of Philadelphia. Please enjoy the presentation.
Hello, how are you today? I am Iola Harper. I'm the Deputy Commerce Director for the City of Philadelphia. I lead the Office of Economic Opportunity, and that is the office that works to ensure that people of color, women, and people with disabilities who are business owners have a fair shot at contracting with city contracts, with quasi-city contracts, and even some private sector contracts. So I am here today to talk to you about the entrepreneurial landscape. I'm going to share a little bit about doing business in Philadelphia, and then I'm going to share some tidbits of wisdom that I got from all the years that I've spent helping businesses in the city. So I'm going to put my presentation on screen, and then I am going to get started. So hold on for a second. Wait a minute. Oh boy. Let's see. Oh boy, wait 1 second. So now we are in the presentation. So like I said, I want to share a little bit about the city of Philadelphia, and then I want to share some tidbits of wisdom with you. When I saw this picture, it brought so many feelings to me because it reminded me of a time when I was a business owner, and I would look out on the horizon and I'd see people doing business. I'd see money being exchanged, yet it was very difficult for me to break through. And so I know some of you feel that way, like you can just reach out and reach and reach and reach, but you're not necessarily connecting. And so the goal of this presentation is to get you closer to connecting. And I want you to know that my job is to connect you too. So even after this presentation, you can get in contact with me or my office for help. The city of Philadelphia buys everything. Anything that you can think of, the city buys. When you think about the chair you're sitting on, what are your feet touching right now? Are they on carpet or are they on concrete? Somebody put that concrete there. Somebody put that chair there. It might be you. Actually, you're in your home, so you probably bought the chair. But there are millions of dollars, billions of dollars in purchases that the city of Philadelphia makes every single year. The city of Philadelphia has a 35% participation goal. That means that 35 cents of every dollar is meant to be spent with people like you. Minority businesses, women-owned businesses, people with disabilities who own businesses. That money is to be spent with you. And these are the types of purchases. They pretty much fall in 3 categories. Service, supplies, and equipment, or supplies, equipment, and maintenance. So things like software, vehicles, food. Public works are things that are built pretty much, like paving supplies, demolition, contracting, roofing. And then professional services, there's a slew of professional services that are listed there: legal services, consulting, medical services, training. The city of Philadelphia purchases it all. I want to ask you a question. The first question is, are you certified? And certified means that if your business is 51% owned by a person of color, 51% owned by a woman, or 51% owned by a person with a disability, you can get a certification, and then you can be part of what's called the OEO registry. The OEO registry right now contains about 3,200 businesses that are all certified as minority-owned, women-owned, or disabled-owned, that not only do city departments use when they're looking for diverse suppliers, but hospitals, schools, all kinds of businesses in the private sector use that registry to identify diverse businesses. It's free to get in, and all you have to do is reach out and contact our office. Are you registered with eContracts Philly and PHL Contracts? eContracts Philly will send you all of the RFPs that the city is going to release or has released, and PHL Contracts will send you the bids. Most recently, the city of Philadelphia has put those two databases together, and they've created what's called Contracts Hub. And the email address is right there. You can go right to Contracts Hub, and you can see what's going on with RFPs, with bids, with small purchases, purchases that are $100,000 or less. They are all listed on eContracts Philly. Now I want to pull the lens back just a little bit and share some information with you. Small businesses generate the majority of jobs. Yes, we have Comcast in our city. We have the city of Philadelphia. We have University of Penn. They employ thousands of people. But from an aggregate perspective, small businesses generate 65% of net new jobs in the city. I'll go to this is the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good, that's the good. The bad is that firms owned by individuals who are not minority, white-owned firms have average sales of $439,579 compared to $74,018 for Black or African American owned companies. A big, big difference. And then the ugly is that 7 out of 10 new firms survive 2 years, half survive 5 years, and a third survive 10 years. Only a quarter of businesses that start today will be in business 15 years from now. So that means we've got some work to do. The struggle is real. And so for minority-owned firms, these are typically true. Many minority-owned firms, or DBE, disadvantaged business enterprises, are undercapitalized. And I got a statistic, I think it was from the SBA, that said 2/3 of minority businesses are started with $10,000 or less. Many MBE, DBE firms lack managerial experience. While a lot of firms owned by whites or Asians, they have family history. They may even be taking over a family business. But for people of color, that's not the case. Many MBE and DBE firms do not tap professionals early on. If you remember, I said a lot of them start with $10,000 or less, so that doesn't leave them a lot of money to tap professionals early on, but it's important. We're going to talk about each one of these. And then MBE, DBE firms lack access to markets and talents outside their typical enclave. That means that they pretty much network with people that are like themselves. And while it's comfortable, it's not always great for business. I mean, and then we have the isms that are looming. Racism, sexism, all those other isms. That's out of our control. We're not going to talk about that today, but they do exist. There are 5 actions based on kind of me pulling things together to help you move forward in spite of which one or how many of those things might be true about you. The first thing that you want to be able to do is to see your business clearly from a financial perspective. Can you honestly say that you understand your numbers? Do you have an accounting system? If you are a construction firm or a firm that has to get bonded, Are you clear about why you may not be bondable or why you may not be able to get access to funds? Now, there is a gap in the market, and funds are hard to come by. However, there are many firms who have legitimate issues around why and cannot get funded because of those legitimate issues. So do you know whether you have legitimate issues or not? Are you comfortable setting prices for your service or products? Do you know the trickle-down implications of your pricing? Do you know what your price leads to? Do you have a CPA or dedicated accountant on your team? You need an accountant. If you're starting a real business, you need a real accountant. The second thing that I want you to do to move forward is to build your intellectual capital. And you're going to do that by surrounding yourself with professionals. You need an accountant and an attorney from day one. You may not need to interact with them every day, but you certainly need legal and accounting assistance from the time you open your business. You need mentors. The first thing I want to say is you need industry mentors, whatever industry you're in. You need non-industry mentors. And I want to say that all of your mentors should not look like you. They may be a different sex. They may be a different race. They may be from a different social group. You should have a variety of people that you network with. Technical assistance providers. Those are people that can help you with your business. You need to have them in your group of people that are providing intellectual capital. And then when you go to conferences, or if you're in professional associations, you need to have those professionals as part of your intellectual capital as well. This one, I think, is the most important to me. You want to network outside of your enclave. You want to build your social capital. So you need financial capital, intellectual capital, and to me, the most important type of capital that you can get is social capital. Argue with me. Your social capital can get you connected to your financial capital or your intellectual capital. You want to have people from different walks of life, people from different social statuses, people from different industries that are part of your enclave, part of the group that you talk to, part of the group that you reach out to and ask questions. If your enclave looks all like you, you're going to have problems when it comes time to scale your business. So you want to start broadening your network. You also want to be able to forecast. You want to be informed about opportunities in the pipeline 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years down the line. Now, how do I do that, you ask, right? How do I know what's going to happen 5 years from now? Well, there are some things that you can do. You're not going to know for sure, but there are some things you can do. When you work for somebody, they tell you what to do. But how do they know what to tell you, right? Most of the people giving direction are giving direction based on forecasted information. And one of the things that you can do to begin to forecast in your industry is to read. Yep, old-fashioned reading. You want to have 5 sources of information. You want a daily paper. You want a daily local paper. You want a daily national paper, so like the Philadelphia Inquirer and maybe the Wall Street Journal. You want to have a few periodicals or e-zines from online that are specific to your industry. You want to have a few things that are specific to business in general. When you read all of that together, you'll be able to begin to say, this is going to happen. And this is what I'm going to do about it. And this is how I'm going to prepare for it. You also want to be able to attend as many industry-specific events as possible. You may not be able to afford at first to go to your industry conference, but maybe you can get the newsletter. You want to try to get access to as much information as possible. You want to know who the key players are in your opportunity pipeline. You cannot expect that when you're in business for yourself, that opportunities are going to come for you. They're not going to fall in your lap just because you're certified. I hear that a lot. I'm certified. I got certified and I didn't get any more business. Well, certification is just the jacket to put over top of everything. It is not going to get you the job. You've got to go out, shake hands, network, and do what you would normally do. You want to glean management experience. So what if you don't have an MBA? There are classes and courses that you can take, especially now online. You can get engaged in all kind of learning online. There are mentor-protege opportunities. There are formal ones and informal ones. I even have mentors, and I also have proteges. So those experiences are very valuable when it comes to expanding your business. You also want to have advisors and consider forming an advisory board. I teach an entire class on forming an advisory board. And an advisory board is a great tool because it is comprised of individuals that you do not pay that are going to give you wise advice. So we can talk about that. You can call me. We can connect about forming an advisory board, but you definitely want to consider forming an advisory board. The last slide that I want to share is just an opportunities framework. And there's 6 C's that I want you to consider. These are C's that are going to help you move forward, C's that are going to help you increase your capacity and grow your business. The first C is capital. We talked about all of these. You need financial capital, you need intellectual capital, you need social capital, and you need human capital. The second C is cash flow. Do you understand how cash flows through your business? Do you know what payment terms are on contracts? Do you know when to get your invoice in so that you're paid in a timely way? Do you have payroll issues that you need to reconcile? So you want to know about payment terms and payroll. The third C is constraints. What are the constraints that you have to encounter in order to do business? Are there licensing constraints? Are there regulations that you need to know about? So what are the things that could potentially hold you back that you need to know about? And of course, right now, a trash truck is coming down my block. So if you can't hear me or if you hear a loud noise in the background, that's what that is. The fourth C is current and future trends. That is about forecasting, about changing demand. Today, your target market wants this, but as the wave of the world changes, they want this. Think about where we're at now. I am talking to you from my office in my home instead of standing in front of you at a podium in a university, right? So think about changing demand. Think about pending laws and regulations. And so if you read, you'll learn about laws or things that they're thinking about turning into laws before they even become law. The fifth C is customers and contacts. So you want to be able to know who your existing customers and contacts are, who your potential or future customers and contacts are, and you want to diversify your network. I cannot stress that enough. You must have a diverse group of people that you network with. And then the sixth C is creating growth. You know that there are going to be new markets and new services that your company can provide based on changes in the world. And you also want to be able to tap into partnerships and alliances. Who can you work with, or who can you align yourself with so that you can do even more business? So I know that I threw a lot at you, but I do want to ask you if you've got any questions, because I am here to answer any questions that you have. And I am not, okay. So let's see. What type of people should you have on your advisory board? That is a great question. When I had an advisory, I'll tell you a story, a quick story. When I had an advisory board, first, let me just say, the best way to get people on your advisory board. How do you get an accountant or an attorney or anybody to offer you feedback and advice when you're not paying them? Well, I'll tell you what I did. The first thing I did was I told them who else was going to serve. So I got one really good person who was a friend to agree to serve on my advisory board, who people knew. And then I used him to get other people to serve. Now, on an advisory board, you don't want a big board. You want a maximum 5 people. So I had an accountant, I had an attorney, I had someone who had a branding and marketing company, I had a customer, and I forget who the 5th person was. But I took them to dinner. I had to give something up. I took them to dinner. If you have a service that you offer, I was on the advisory board for a woman who opened a spa downtown, and she had her advisory board meetings 4 times a year, 4 hours a year she asked me for. She had them at her salon, and you could get a service while you were giving her advice. So that was a mutually beneficial relationship. So you want to have up to 5 people on your board. And I had an accountant who would look over the tax documents that my accountant that I paid would submit. And the second year that I had my accountant look over my accountant, right? And don't think I was making that much money, because I wasn't. But I had an accountant look over my accountant, and he found an error. And he found an error that could have caused me a big problem. And that alone made it worth him being on my advisory board. So you should have people who can offer you feedback and advice that you don't particularly, that things that aren't that don't come to you, or that's not your expertise. You want to meet with them a limited time during a year, maybe 4 times a year, once per quarter. Your meetings need to be organized, and people need to know exactly what you want from them. And if you do that, you will have a very successful advisory board. If you ask someone to be an advisor and they tell you no, you ask them, well, if I have an issue that you might be able to help me with, do you mind if I call you? And a lot of times they will say yes. So, that's a whole process, but those are the type of people that you want on your advisory board. Yes, you can have my email address. My email address is Iola, IOLA, .Harper, HARPER, at phila.gov, at phla.gov. So it's IOLA .Harper, HARPER, at phila.gov. What are some programs that the city has to help young founders and entrepreneurs? I will tell you that the city funds a number of organizations who provide services. So the city itself, we don't have programs. What we do is we fund organizations to put out programs for entrepreneurs. We fund places like the Women's Opportunity Center, the Enterprise Center, Entrepreneur Works, probably any organization that you might want to go to get assistance to get your business started. The Commerce Department either funds them or has a relationship with them. So again, reach out to me, iola.harper@phila.gov. And if you tell me what you're looking for, I can probably find an organization that can help you. You've been successful at getting behind young people and inspiring their confidence to embark on a business journey. How do you make that happen? I think I found my calling. I started my career. I actually went to what is now Jefferson University. I went to Philadelphia College of Textiles and Science for undergrad. And when I left there, I worked for a very large retailer as a buyer. And I thought that that was going to be my career. And as it turns out, being a buyer is not glamorous. It is not. I thought I was going to be at fashion shows saying I'll take 3 of those and 2 of those. Nope. It was being down in the stockroom, unpacking boxes, making sure that merchandise got on the floor and that it was selling for the dollars per square foot that you anticipated. It was numbers. It was numbers and grit, right? And so I stayed on that job for almost 5 years. I learned a tremendous amount. And I left and I started working with businesses in my neighborhood. And I would say, Mr. Johnson, you've got this nail polish that has split. It's got dust on it. It's not worth anything anymore. You have to sell it or give it away or throw it away. And that is how I built my career. And in the course of building my career, I have come across so many young people. I've actually taught classes for young people. I've mentored young people because you guys, you are the future. And I want to make sure that you're properly informed and properly encouraged. So I would say that is probably not necessarily how I did it, but why I did it. And the reason that my career has zigzagged the way that it has is because of my enclave. I have always insisted on networking with all kinds of people. And those people have opened doors for me, thankfully. And now I'm in a position to open doors for some of you. And that's what I want to do. How do you press forward on days when you just don't feel like it? What are you hopeful for in the new year? Well, this has been one of the most difficult years for everybody, especially for me. I am an introvert, so it's not that I'm not around people, but I miss the day-to-day, in and out, going places, talking to people. So it's been really difficult. My first hope is that I stay well, because this COVID-19 I hear it getting worse and more people are becoming infected. And I have a pre-existing condition. So if I get it, I'm probably going to be hospitalized. So I'm trying to stay well. I hope that my family and friends and all of you stay well. But my biggest hope, and it has to do with my biggest hope for my career, is that the city will embrace Black and Brown founders in a way that they deserve to be embraced, and in a way that they've never been embraced before. Our ice is just as cold. Our food is just as tasty. Our services are just as appropriate and just as good as anyone else's. And it is my hope and my prayer that these uprisings and these conversations and these conferences will bring about a use of Black businesses, and that you will all have more business than you can ever imagine. So that is my hope for the new year. Are there any other questions? Well, we're done early. Oh, Yes. Have you seen any businesses that have pivoted in the pandemic? I have seen businesses that have pivoted and businesses that are on the precipice of pivoting. One of the things with black and brown businesses that I've realized during the pandemic is that we are very retail oriented. So we are very come in the store, buy what we have, and leave oriented. We were not, in large part, involved with technology and involved with websites and involved with people going online and ordering what we have and mailing it to them. And I've seen some very, very creative entrepreneurs go on, for example, go on Facebook and show what they have in their store. And then people would buy it and they'd mail it to them. But what they really need is technology and access to websites and access to all of the things that a business has that has a mail order component to it. So I see a lot of businesses moving in that direction. And there is a boutique, one boutique that I'm aware of, that is actually doing more business now than when she was just a retail store. And that is because her online following comes from far beyond Philadelphia. And she's mailing things to California. She mailed something to Vermont. She's got customers that are clamoring for her merchandise. And before, she wasn't really online. So that's one. There's another business that makes handmade furniture for people. And what they started doing was creating customized shields for businesses. So there are businesses that have shields that have flowers and different things on them. And so they've pivoted to meet this demand. And what I keep saying is you've got to read. You've got to watch the news. You've got to listen. You've got to be alert because you got to know what's coming next so that you can begin to prepare for it. So, while our businesses, black and brown businesses, are suffering, they are suffering. There are some businesses that are trying to pivot and are pivoting, and they're making it work. So that is something that I'm really, really proud of, and I want to be an assistant to any business that wants to pivot. Last question. Do you have a word of inspiration for people who are trying to start or grow a business right now? Right now is the time. Right now is the time. Let me tell you why. Because number one, there are all kinds of services available for people who want to start a business. They're looking for you. They're looking for you in the daytime with a flashlight. They're looking for you because they want to provide technical assistance, they want to provide money, and they want to provide support for you to start your business. So now is the time. You have to start a business that's going to work right now, though, right? So you've got to combine what you do well with what people want, and you'll be successful. So I think now is the time. There's money available now. There are people that want to help African-American young people, African-American older people, right? So they do want to help you now. And I want to help you too. So I think that's the last question. No problem. No problem at all. So I'm just going to, I guess, be here until we go off. If you've got any questions. But if you don't have any questions, I'll just be here until they turn off the camera. It was a pleasure. My final word is that this has been a hard year. It's been a difficult time, especially for people of color. We're dealing with illness. We're dealing with the uprisings. We're dealing with the economics. We're dealing with so many things. And I just want to say that I believe that's going to get better. I believe that's going to get better. And I believe that you have to do whatever it takes to keep your head up and do whatever it takes to keep your, well, not whatever it takes, but you want to do what you can to keep your pockets filled, and to keep your family fed. And that might mean that you have to work at Amazon, or you might have to do something other than your business right now, but it's going to get better. And trust me, if you read and you listen to listen to the news and you listen to your heart, you will come up with ways to pivot your business so that you can begin to capitalize on current customer demand. So that's my final word. Thank you for joining me today for Rise Up Philly. And like I said, you can always shoot me an email if you'd like to have a conversation. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.